everybody, welcome to a special episode of Gaijin Guy, where I'm just going to say a few words about FUJIKO Fujio A. You might know him as part of the duo FUJIKO Fujio, which there's FUJIKO Fujio A and FUJIKO F Fujio. I remember the difference between the two. I'm not great at names. As F being friendly, you know, it's more kid friendly, and A being more adult friendly or a little bit more darker themes. And today we're going to talk about A because he just a few days ago passed away. F, as you might know, passed away quite a while ago. They both worked on some famous series such as Doraemon and Obake no Kyutaro, but mostly, even though they used the FUJIKO Fujio moniker, they mostly drew their works separately. And then in later years, as they were being reprinted, they would have the updated versions would have their separate pen names. FUJIKO Fujio, this Fujio is like not two guys. Not two guys because they were two, but they were one, I guess, you know. But the Fujiko part, okay, the one member, his name was Fujiwara, and then A, his name is actually Abiko. So you have Fujiwara Abiko, Fujiko, and that's where you get FUJIKO Fujio. And one thing, let's see. So one of the last things that they're considered to have worked together on is Obake no Kyutaro, which is a very popular series about a ghost. It was turned into an animated series, but actually it wasn't just those two. Actually, many different people who lived in the Tokiwa So apartments, they all helped in. Ishinomori, Shotaro, and Akazuka Fujio also helped, and apparently you can pick out their different contributions quite easily. So what's the difference between A and F besides the themes? So besides the themes, you can also find a little bit more darker illustrations. Like there's a lot more like faces with shadows with the A characters. You know, they came across Tezuka's Shin Takarajima and, well, I should say Tezuka and Shichima's Shin Takarajima, and they wanted to become manga artists, and they started making things together. One of their first big hits was Utopia, which they worked on together, and they showed to Tezuka, I believe, and he said much later that he knew immediately that they were going to be big manga stars someday. I talked about this issue before, the very first issue of Shonen Sunday. This is from the Fujita collection. Mr. Fujita has let me borrow a number of very interesting and important first issues. And in this is a series they worked on together. Umi no Oji, Prince of the Sea. And the interesting thing about this series is that the main characters, the heroes, they were drawn by F. And the bad guy, this bad guy, is, what's his name again? Oh yeah, the Black Wolf. The bad guys were designed by A. So already we can see early on they had a difference in taste and sensibilities. A going for the darker stuff. He said that he loved monsters as a kid, and he loved monsters more than he loved ghosts. So like Japanese ghost stories were too scary for him. He said he, like many Japanese say, they scared me so much I was afraid to go to the bathroom at night. I hear this a lot. And it makes me wonder, like, why there's so many people, number one, going to the bathroom at night, and why that's their go-to phrase for it's too scary. So I'm just wondering, there might be something there, because I hear that phrase a lot, and I kind of, when I tell people, when I recommend certain horror comics or movies, they're like, no, I can't watch it because I won't be able to go to the bathroom at night. Okay, so anyway, that's a different story. This is Kaibutsu-kun, Monster-kun. And you guys know that I'm into the monsters, especially I love the classics. And he says these three classic monsters are his favorite: Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, and the Wolfman. Also in this, Invisible Man, and let's see, we've got them both right here. So there's the Invisible Man, looking mighty sharp, and you also have the creature from the Black Lagoon, which he just calls the Hangyojin from the Amazon. And so you have all the classic Universal monsters. You even have in this, like, the Phantom of the Opera. You have some of the famous, like, aliens from 1950s SF science fiction monster movies. This kind of grouping, and he also put some Japanese monsters in here too. And this kind of grouping of monsters, no matter where they're from, is exactly what it was like for me back in the 70s. Like I kind of saw them all as one group of things. Like I had a book of mazes. It was like movie monster mazes, I believe it was. And in that you've got like The Fly, and you've got the Wolfman and Frankenstein's monster, and etc. But you also have Godzilla and Mothra, and these, what we called kaiju now. We just called them like Japanese monster movies back then. But basically monster, the whole thing was one category, not as quite separated like it is now. So he said because there was a distance, he felt like they're overseas monsters. They're not actually going to come to Japan and attack him. So he was a lot more comfortable with these monsters as a kid. And I kind of understand that. When I first came to Japan, I had seen a bit of Japanese horror movies that took place like in Japanese schools, but just the way that the schools looked and everything was so different from my experience that it didn't really feel, it felt more like fantasy and not very real. But when I started working in Japan and I spent the night at one of these schools, working all night with a coworker for a presentation, this is mid-90s, and we were trying to get the school to, we were trying to tell the teachers how they can use this newfangled thing called the internet. I don't know if you guys know about that, but that's what we were trying to tell them about. So we worked all night on this video presentation we made. Successful, by the way. I remember one of my coworkers saying, Yes, could you please buy the internet? Yes, and we did. We bought the internet. So anyway, at that school in the middle of the night, the phone rang for no reason. just just one ring scared the bejesus out of me. Like, who's calling at 2 in the morning, you know? So anyway, I got a little bit more. Those horror movies started to feel a little bit more real to me the longer I lived in this country. So by the time like Ring or Ju-on, The Grudge, or this kind of thing came out, had a lot more reality to them, and zombie movies started to feel less and less, like something that I should be worried about, because they basically cremate everybody here, so you don't have to worry about zombies rising from the grave, which was probably a much bigger fear for me than the kind of zombies you mostly see in modern horror, where it's just it's people who are alive turned into zombies and such. What was I talking about? Is this a video about zombies? No, it's a video about FUJIKO Fujio A, and I'm going to mention another one of his works, which is this one, Mataro ga Kuru. So Mataro is coming. Mataro is coming. Coming to get you, okay? Get your minds out of the gutter. And Mataro, this Mataro, the Ma, is Akuma no Ma. In other words, devil or demon Ma. Taro, which is a very common, like John, basically, in Japan. So he's like Devil John, I guess. And this came out quite a while ago, and I don't have the dates on me. I'll put them up somewhere over here. But this is about a kid who's bullied, and at the beginning of this, he's bullied, but in his notebook, he's writing in a notebook here, you see him. I should show you that him getting bullied. So they've put, the guy next to him has put tacks on his seat, but he's writing in his notebook. He's writing here, he's saying, oh yeah, I made a new friend today. He, kind of got me, he put me at the center of attention by playing a fun prank, and he's my first friend. And the bully reads this in the notebook and says, "I'm not your friend," and just like beats the crap out of him. And he beats the crap out of him and actually knocks him into a tree, and he falls unconscious. So the bully and his two friends, they take off, and you start to get, look at that great panel right there. This shadow, the way that it's textured, you can tell that something, it gives you a sense of unease that something's going to happen. And when he walks in the classroom, he's all beat up, and the teacher's like, what's going on? He's like, no, I just fell. It's nothing. And every time that the bullies pick on him, he's like, no, it's nothing. And, it's very real to the creator's experience. He said when he was a kid, he was bullied. And so he put a lot of that, those things affected him throughout his adult life. So when he made these comics, he really kind of focused his anger at those bullies into the work. And so in the early episodes, apparently, because a lot of them were not reprinted, Mataro does more than hurt the guy, his tormentors. But anyway, in this one, he comes home and he's marked out the nice things he wrote in the notebook. He's written a new entry where he says, the guy's a jerk and he deserves to get what's coming to him. And it's almost like this is the original Death Note. You know, he's got this black notebook that he writes all, you know, he stopped writing good things about the school itself. Is called like the, what is it, the Friendship and Love School, you know, UI or something like that. And the teacher's all about, you know, platitudes. He's saying, you know, at this school, love your fellow man, and, you know, and treasure friendships and stuff like that. But the reality is that those are just, you know, empty platitudes. They're not actually instilling these kind of values in the kids, the bullies. And it's only like one or two, there was only one girl in the class who's like, they're beating up on him. And so anyway, he basically makes a deal with Satan, for revenge. And he makes a clay model of the bully, and he does to the bully, you know, like doing the goody thing with and the temples, and also punching him in the face. And then they go reverse image for this last panel because maybe it's a little bit too grotesque for the Shonen Champion kids comic. But so he gets his revenge, and then, but it ends on kind of a sour note because two new bullies step up, and you say, just because that guy's gone doesn't mean that you get a free ride. And so it doesn't end on this hopeful note, like just because this one kid kind of stood up for himself, that it's going to end the problem. So I think it's actually, even though it's very kind of cut and dried, I think there's a lot of interesting points in this. Like it's, first of all, it's super dark, but like that's the experience of somebody who's been bullied. You know, they're like, the rules don't work for them. The school says a lot of, you know, wonderful things, but what is it actually doing to, and how much can the school do, honestly? I think that you have to, well, you know, I don't really want to get into that with this video because I think bullying is very difficult and topic that needs very, you know, nuanced dissection. But recently, one of the TV shows that I've been watching, Mystery no Nakare, Mystery to You Nakare, I think is the Japanese title. It's a shoujo comic mystery series that has been turned into a TV show. I watched it every week and enjoyed it quite a bit. And I'm actually started reading the comic, and it was enjoyable as well. But the main character makes a lot of really strong statements about things that are accepted in society, and saying, isn't it strange that when kids are bullied, we only think about how they need therapy, when it's actually like the people who are bullied, are the ones who, I mean, the people who are bullying, they're the ones who should be going to therapy. And so why is it all on the victim to change, to deal? And why isn't there not more emphasis put on the people who are actually causing the bullying, and looking into them and what's causing that? And I was like, yeah, that's right. There was a lot of things like that, and so it's quite an interesting series. But so apparently a lot of these stories were either edited out completely in reprints or redrawn, like the endings changed to probably because murder happens, you know. Mataro doesn't just get like revenge, you know, like just hurting these bullies. He actually, you know, like murders several of them. And So I think that when they did the reprints, they thought, maybe this isn't the best thing for a kid's comic. And probably right. I mean, you have to have the right filters in place to read something like that and to enjoy it as a site of catharsis, and which is much how I watched movies like Carrie and the endless copies of Carrie, where the nerdy kid gets their revenge through supernatural means. I loved those things. I still love a good revenge flick where justice is meted, is carried out. But I also, of course, recognize it as fantasy and wouldn't actually want to, to get that kind of revenge. I mean, I might want to, I wouldn't do it, So, you know what I mean. I think you know what I mean. Oh, I also have another special thing. This is also from the Fujita collection. I may have shown this to you guys before. This is Kuroi Salesman. So this is like the prototype of the Laughing Salesman, Warao Salesman, which is, in my memory, I remembered this, like the Laughing Salesman, I remembered it as he helps out people in trouble, is how I remembered it. But if you reread it, and I reread it recently, that is not necessarily the case. He helps them the first time, but then they later regret his help because they get sucked in to a dark end as well, So it kind of ties in with like Jigoku Shoujo, like Hell Girl, that light novel, manga, anime series where if you choose to curse the terrible people that wronged you, okay, you also go to hell. So she always gives you a chance, like a choice, like, you can do this, but when you die, like those people are going to die now and they're going to go to hell now. But when you die, you're going to go to hell too. So what are you going to do? So it's kind of like that, and we see this with Eko Eko Azarak at the beginning of that series, where people ask for this help, which is, due to black magic and her own deal with Satan, but it ends up, devouring them as well, and it's not as helpful. Later on, it became more of a, help the downtrodden, and she's more of a positive, helpful character. But at the beginning, it's like, you don't want her help, and you definitely don't want either of these salesmen help. I thought I was really happy to get a look at this from Mr. Fujita collection. Check out this binding. Of course, this would be under a cover, and so you wouldn't see it as well, but it's quite dark, and you've got a very, like, early Joker, The Man Who Laughs, Conrad Veidt, silent movie kind of, theme, not theme, but like, you can kind of see that in there, definitely. But so that's my quick and dirty video on FUJIKO Fujio A. Besides this, he also did the Manga Michi series, which several manga artists read and were inspired to create comics of their own. So yeah, check his stuff out, and I think he won't be easily forgotten because he's put so much good stuff out there in the world, even though a lot of it is nice and dark. Anyway, I'll see you next time here on Gaijin Guy.